Hello and welcome to another gate overview. My name is Bambaji and I am going to take you through gate 49. You can see it here in the mandala. Gate 49 is around 10 o'clock if you're looking at the mandala as a clock face. So around 10 o'clock there, and it is situated in the solar plexus. It's pointing down towards the root center and its harmonic gate, which is gate 19. The sun transited through gate 19 about 10 days ago. And the polarity, the opposite side you can see there around 4 o'clock, is gate 4. Gate 4 lives in the ajna, that's the green triangle, sort of towards the top there of the body graph. Gate 49 is the tribal gate of revolution and principles. The channel it makes with gate 19 is called synthesis, a design of being sensitive. And gate 4 is the logical gate of youthful folly, the gate of formalization. So on the 7th of February at 9:55, we move into gate 49. The sun is transiting in here and starting the beginning of a few solar plexus gates now. All except gate 6 are activated through this quarter of initiation, and gate 49 is the first of them. So this is the gate of tribal principles, the gate of tribal, of emotional, sensitive principles. It is the sacrificer and the butcher. The headline for the 49th gate, when you look in the Rave I Ching, above the lines, it says, ideally, the transformation of forms based on the highest principles and not simply for power. And this tells us straight away that the 49th gate is always, always interested in power. Now, the first line, it's called the law of necessity. And it comes with a lifetime learning. And when we look at that, it says revolution has no support unless it is perceived as necessary. And when we're going through the lines here of the 49, wherever you see the word revolution in this exploration, you can substitute it with the word principles. So principles have no support unless they are perceived as necessary. The first line, the foundation of the hexagram. This tells us that the overall theme of gate 49 is necessity. So this is a tribal gate that is operating through the stream of sensitivity and need. Of course, it is the neediness of the tribe, the need for support, both receiving support and offering support. And the 49th gate, it's an emotional gate, you know, with a wave that ratchets. It goes 2 steps up, 1 step back, maybe 2 steps up and 1 step, until it gets to the point where there's that explosion. The mutation that is taking place in 2027, this is also going to affect this gate and also the 19. You know, so principles in that sense are changing. Our needs are changing. This whole channel is going to change. If you carry the 49th gate in a defined emotional system and you're operating correctly, you know, according to your emotional authority, then you will have the time through your sensitivity to reach a point of clarity in order to recognize what is a necessity, what principles are necessary for yourself, and what principles are necessary in your relationships with the other. This is tribal. Everything to do with the tribe at this level is about the relationships between each other. The 49 and the 19, we saw this a couple of transits back. This is the bride and groom, you know, seeking out the right bonds, bonds which are based on very specific principles. So if you have the 49th gate in an undefined emotional system, you have to remember that the not self strategy is to avoid confronting others, confrontation and truth. These are the things that you're doing. You don't want to confront others over your principles. You know, to avoid the truth of what principles are truly necessary to accept somebody into your life who doesn't fit. You know, because your principles are your principles, and if you've got someone around who's, you know, sort of just doesn't quite fit in there, you might have the inability to be able to confront them, maybe even the inability to be able to reject them. The 49th gate is a gate of rejection or acceptance. It's a gate of marriage, and it's the gate of divorce. And so in an undefined emotional system where it operates inconsistently, where it can be so inflated by conditioning that it becomes exceedingly difficult for these beings to really know what principles to operate by, what truly is a necessity. There's always one solution, of course, and it's a solution for everyone in our differentiated state, but it's the same solution. It's you operate according to your nature. It doesn't matter what your type is, what your design is on paper, any of that. You operate according to your nature, according to your strategy and authority. And then ideally, this transformation will be based on the highest principles, and it will not simply be about power. So this gate of revolution, at once pure energy and the capacity in the wave to reject, and at the same time potentially aware, ritualistically, that's not an easy word, ritualistically spiritual. In the design of mammals, this channel forms one of the 3 cross-species connections between humans and animals. This is the channel of animism, and it's the exaltation of animals as gods. It's our way of honoring them when we sacrifice them. The 49th gate has the sensitivity to interact with animals, and it is the gate of the breeder. Taming and breeding animals to ensure food resources. Revolution is the potential awareness to know what and who is needed or not in order to maintain or restructure the community. It seeks the support of the 19 at the other end of the channel in return for the guarantee of food, and through food, access to the community. Remember again, tribal, there's a bargain. This is what is playing between the 19 and the 49. On the mundane plane, sensitivity, which is what this stream is, that goes from the root to the ego through the solar plexus. So you've got the 1949 and then this 3740. This is the political left. The stream of instinct that we find on the other side, which is the mirror to this side, this mirror of the stream of sensitivity, we have again from the root to the ego, but going via the splenic center through the 5432 and the 4426. And this is characterized as the political, no, this is the left. Or did I say the left last time? See, I've got all confused now. I don't really do politics and geography. So the 1949 is political left, whereas the 5432 is the political right. It's a very political gate. It's partly what it needs to be said. Actually, the tribe in total is quite political. So the risk with the principles of gate 49 comes because of the nature of the solar plexus. When determined by emotional energy, the revolution follows the wave of hope and pain. It's the hope of power to the people becomes the pain of starvation in the ghetto, depending on how things play out on, I mean, there's so many different factors, and we see a lot of these as we go through the lines. We have moved through gate 13. We saw the lines of gate 13 in the last transit, the fellowship of man. And the 6th line was called optimism, the optimism that there is value in everyone. And remember, it's the 49 who will establish the principles of who gets access to the resources. And the 13.6 is in the collective, and it says everybody should have access. Everybody is of value. And the 49, being tribal, slightly different rule system about who has the right to access the resources and who doesn't have the right to access the resources. And this is part of the sacrificer quality that we find in the 49. They will sacrifice someone to the principles that are correct. They might even have to sacrifice themselves or be sacrificed, as we'll see as we go through. 49 is emotional. So it is important to see that our principles have always been conditioned by the tribal emotional wave. And this goes back to our understanding of the nature of the solar plexus and how the solar plexus works. And it goes back to understanding the nature of clarity. In this journey around the wheel, I have mentioned to you before that there are frequencies of awareness. And we know that through the splenic system, awareness is something that is spontaneous. It's quiet. It's considered weak because of that quietness. It has no capacity to insist. It doesn't repeat itself. And this spontaneous awareness is the only consistent and valuable awareness that can actually have inner authority. People who have splenic authority have the spontaneous authority to stay healthy and to stay alive. When we look at mental awareness and the ajna system, we know that the mind, the ajna, has no inner authority. And it's a good thing because its frequency is over all time. So in other words, if you make a mental decision, you will have to live with that for the rest of your life, deal with the consequences. You could say that it's a sort of the punishment for giving the mind inner authority. So the first thing we recognize about awareness is that it is not something that you can ever possibly understand mentally, but it's something that automatically guarantees you will survive. The mind is always busy trying to tell you what to do, but it has no authority over your life. And then we have the solar plexus system. Now, at the same time that the 54-4 heed the transformation of our 7-centered system into a 9-centered system, around the discovery of Uranus at the end of the 18th century, the emotional system began its process of getting ready to become an awareness center, something that actually began around 2,000 years previously. The solar plexus, as it stands today, it's not an awareness center, which in no way diminishes its capacity to guide those who have a defined solar plex and is their inner authority. This is about understanding the nature of clarity, and for those of us with emotional authority, clarity is the first stage to the opening up of awareness. Clarity is about time, it's about reference points. If you have a defined solar plex and therefore emotional inner authority, one of the things we have to recognize is that no decision can be made until the wave has been experienced fully. And then we find some kind of clarity. What that means at the mundane level, in terms of the quality of awareness displayed in a human being, is that the splenic center can be aware in the moment. But that is also its limitation, as much as it becomes a sort of first impression awareness. The solar plexus cannot survive on first impressions because out of that will come disaster. Now, the solar plexus builds up its framework of clarity through having different places in the wave, that it looks at the same thing, it examines the same thing, but it's always from a different viewpoint, different reference points. Solar plexus being who can wait out the wave has a deeper and more profound understanding of the other than the splenic being in their spontaneous recognition. It's sort of the reward, you could say, for the patience that is required to establish that clarity, that depth of recognition. And this tells us a lot about the world that we live in terms of our relationships, because almost all relationships, when you put those two charts together, they're going to involve emotional definition, which means there's no truth in the now when you're in a relationship. It is only over time that clarity can be established. So this whole business about the 49 being a gate of principles that drives the tribe, well, understand how volatile and destructive these principles can be when they're guided by an ignorant wave. And I don't mean ignorant in the bad sense, there's no morality here, it's a word. When the wave is in ignorance, when it's not aware, it can be very destructive. The wave can be very volatile. We've all experienced that. And the impact on the wave of other people, the pain that can be caught up when you're in the wave through the 49th gate, how clear principles are going to be or not when they're conditioned by the blinding power of emotions, unless you've got someone who's really rooted in their authority, who truly knows who they are, their principles are not going to be that clear. And remember the headline. Ideally, the transformation of forms based on the highest principles and not simply for power. Now, if you're the one who decides which sheep gets slaughtered and who gets to eat it, that could be a real power trip. It was the 49th gate who wrote those wonderful lines in the marriage contract about honoring and obeying. You will honor me or I will divorce you. Well, literally, there's quite a lot of divorce in the 49th gate. So the hexagram itself, it's called revolution, and we step into the emotional system. And every single gate out of the emotional system, it resonates to the nature of that wave. The channel, the 1949, the channel of synthesis, it's a design of sensitivity. Tribal, mystical channel, remember, it's part of the mystical way, which we explored when we did gate 19. It's the nature of resources within the tribe. It's about touch. The 49th gate is the gate of principles. You're going to hear this word over and over again, establishing the principles of resources. Who gets what and what exactly do they get? This is what the 49 is working out, establishing which principles should be obeyed. The 49th gate is always looking for obedience. That's part of its nature. And this is not a manifestor energy, but it can carry the quality of, this is what we're doing. Ra said many times, this is a brutal gate. It lays down the law, and it's very simple for the 49. This is how things are. If you don't like it, on you go. If you don't abide by my principles, you know where the door is. You could see how dangerous that could get, how really difficult that could be. It's not an awareness that's really come to its fruition yet, the solar plexus. What is needed or not as a principle, it's operating in the wave, which is a motor. Oh, it can be tricky for those of us who don't carry the 49, because the principles can actually change depending on what's happening in the wave. It could be, inconsistent is something that we sort of equate with being open there and just being conditioned by a transit or so on. But it can be inconsistent because of the wave. The wave brings out, I don't know right now. There's no truth in the now. If you announce some kind of principle and everybody falls in and they're like, yeah, we'll do this, yeah. And then the next day you're a different place on your wave. It's like, yeah, that principle doesn't really work for me anymore. It's like, oh yeah, great, okay. How does that gonna work? All of our revolutions, all of our principles are conditioned ignorantly, for the most part, of course, by the nature of this wave. The awareness potential is food discrimination. This is all about dictating from the 49th position and establishing the principles about what food should be available, when the food should be available, who's going to get the food, who's going to sit at my table. This is the organization of the resources for the tribe. So the 49, it's an emotional gate, and as such, in its wave, it determines where the resources go. And the access to food, whoa, it's not always guaranteed. The awareness centers all carry fear in some shape or form. The gates of the splenic center shows the primal fears that keep us alive. The ajna, it has fears that express anxiety, the things that plague the mind. And in the solar plexus, fear shows up as nervousness. The nervousness that is felt in gate 49 is that of support. It's a losing support. And of course, actually, I don't know if you've come across this before, because curiously, it is often described as a nervousness of nature. And this is because nature is fundamentally unpredictable. A year that brings a good harvest might be followed by 3 years of drought and empty barns. And this can really play on the insecurity of the 49. If they can't support the tribe, maybe they will be the next sacrifice. So as we journey through the sun's transit in gate 49, we have the earth, gate, which is in the Ajna center, and it is gate 4. It's the gate of formalization, the gate of youthful folly. This is a logical gate. It's the gate of answers, operating through the pressure of doubt. It is the potential to have an answer to the doubt. This is also a gate of good fortune, because the most grounded path uses logic to be able to substantiate things. And this, in fact, protects us from misjudgment. So this is the energy that supports and grounds the gate of revolution and principles. And it feels like a good match somehow, having principles that are grounded in logic, that can be substantiated by logic, by the answer there. But the energy of the wave must always be respected. Gate 49 must be obeyed. So it will be interesting to see how these two gates play together as we go through the lines over the next few days. So thank you very much for joining me for this overview of Gate 49. And I look forward to taking you through the lines, as I say, over the next few days. And yeah, I go and brush my hair. Yeah, okay. Lovely to see you. Lovely to be on this next gate as we're starting this journey, going through initiation step by step, going through the solar plexus gates on the sun's journey as it moves through. Wonderful, wonderful, loving it. And I'm really enjoying your company and all the engagement. Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to go through these with me. I appreciate your company. So until I meet you very shortly in line 1, go gently.